Everyone here has heard of it?
Now we're recording. Sorry, guys.
That's right. Maybe I should go. I won't go back. I assume most of you have heard of it, but admin.salesforce.com/blog is the Salesforce Admins blog where they have the How I Solve This series, from which all of these ideas, or where I've published all of these ideas before, and we'll give you links to them at the end. And okay. So first of all, we're going to fix looking at a wall of numbers like this that's nearly impossible to parse. We're going to look at related lists. Sometimes it can be really hard to make a related list that shows the different record types, the important fields for different record types. I find that really frustrating. And don't even get me started on making the column widths useful when you have a less than full page related list like this one is. So we'll fix it. Who's got 2 fingers and loves to scroll? Apparently this guy does. But I'm gonna look at some ways we can improve your Lightning pages so you don't have an endless scroll like that. And last but not least, how many of you spend much of your day option clicking or command clicking so that you open things in tabs and then do the same boring repetitive task? We're gonna turn reports into something you can take action on. So that's what we're gonna go through. 4 fast user experience upgrade ideas. You should be able to take these with the link I'll give you at the end. You can implement them really quickly in your orgs or for your clients and just delight your users with a better user experience. All right, let's start with emojis. Who doesn't love emojis? I am not a millennial, right? But I do believe that we humans learn much faster visually than from reading things. So you don't have to take my word for it, right? Trailhead says. This is straight from a Trailhead module, right? We humans learn much faster visually. So we're going to take like that wall of numbers that I showed you a moment ago and is now on the left-hand side of the screen here. And we're going to use emoji to make it something you can process in a second. Looking at that chart on the right, it's obviously very fast to see which students need what kind of help or are not doing well in what area. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, there was an old method of like putting image tags in a formula, right? Yes, you could definitely do that. It's a pain in the neck to manage those. You have to store them in the Documents tab, which is still in Classic. The formula for putting in those images is a mess. Oh, and you have to be your own graphic artist. I am not a graphic artist. This is a real image tag in one of my real clients, something I built probably 7 years ago. You know, it does the trick, right? But it's not great. It helps people see the information much more quickly, but I think it's kind of a huge amount of work to manage these images for image flags like this. Like I said, you have to switch into Classic. You have to make the images yourself and then store them as a JPEG or a PNG. And if you want to change it, you got to go back into the image tab, Documents tab and upload a new one. It's just a pain in the neck. So emoji make it way easier. Now, the first thing a lot of people say to me is like, is it hard? It's not hard. The hardest part, I think, is actually finding the emoji. So here's your cheat sheet. On a Mac, it's Command-Control-Space, brings up the emoji keyboard. You can try it in your web browser or in an email. I do find that Google Docs is not really emoji friendly. The keyboard doesn't come up. It's fine when you copy and paste them in, but it's hard to get them. And on a Windows, of course, it's the Windows key, Windows period. So you can bring up the emoji keyboard really easily. Then the next hard part is choosing. That's really the hardest part. There's so many emoji options. So here's a couple of trios that I like to use, right? You got your your green, yellow, red stoplight or traffic light. You could, of course, just do circles, but I actually like the check mark and the warning and the danger. They're really useful. I love the little trophy cup for something that's like really better than just a green check mark. Thumbs up, thumbs down are really handy. Of course, the warning symbol or the red dot there. And then on the right-hand side, I'm really looking for that place where I can get the pirate flag in. I haven't yet found a client org I could pull it off in. I'm in the nonprofit world. We don't really have competitors, but I could see in a for-profit world, you could put a little pirate flag on your competitor's account page or something like that, but I haven't pulled it off in the real world yet. After that, using those emoji is really simple. They're text. So on that report I showed you, right, all we were doing was taking a number, in this case, the GPA of a student, and we're using a nested if formula to convert if the GPA is greater than or equal to 3.4. We use the green check mark. If it's between 2.5 and 3.3, we're going to give the warning symbol, and then below 2.5, we're going to give the red dot, and we default to the red dot in the case where there's no GPA entered into the system. Really simple. Here's another example. You can do this anywhere. So I'm taking the NPSP standard last gift amount field, and I'm just making it something that will really pop on the page layout. I've replaced it with a text field that takes NPSP last opportunity amount. If it's greater than 5,000, it inserts the emoji and then the dollar amount. So you can put that on the page layout and really make it pop. You can do this with just about anything. Emoji can be used, by the way, not just for image flags. You can put them in any text field. You can use them, I use them as pick list values. I've done thumbs up, thumbs down as pick list values, which work really well on mobile if you just want to be able to choose 2 radio buttons. So emoji are really useful in all sorts of places.
Question, Mike?
Absolutely.
If you don't mind us interrupting you?
I don't mind at all.
Okay. So I like emojis too, and I totally agree everything with you say, but do you ever get yourself in trouble because let's say that little smiley face where the tongue is down, does that mean it's bad? Or like I'm throwing up because the donation was less? Like, did you ever get yourself in trouble because someone said, oh, I don't think we should do that, it's not politically correct, or so on and so forth?
That is absolutely a danger. You got to know your audience. You got to know whether it's your colleagues or your clients. I did not use that that face in a real client org. That is for this presentation. But I have generally trying to choose ones that are safe for work, and people have just been delighted by like thumbs up, thumbs down, or the green, yellow, red of a stoplight. I've never had a client that was upset, and I've sometimes involved the client, and I've said, I want to put a header in this place, or you'll see some other places where I use emoji later in the presentation. And so I asked them, here are some options I found, but do you have another emoji that you would prefer?
Okay, my second question was, I've always thought, well, geez, I have an idea for emoji, but I can't find it. And you're right, it does take a long time to find the emojis. Do you know if there's any source where you can get emojis?
Well, so when you bring up the emoji keyboard, there is a search function at the top, and I should put in some keywords, and there's not necessarily an emoji for everything you might expect, and then there's weird ones that you're like, why did someone bother putting that in? I don't understand who would ever use it. Once in a while, if I haven't come up with an emoji using the search that I like, I have gone and Googled throwing in emoji as a keyword, just because I might get some different sort of direction on which emoji are going to get used. There are some sort of emoji dictionaries out there, which, you know, might help you sort of think of like, oh, maybe this keyword, you know, different than will come up in the search.
But can you take an emoji that's not from the vendor, like I have a Mac, and
so that's a great question. So no, when I'm talking about emoji, I'm talking about the actual Unicode emoji that are, you know, that are common across all devices, right? If your phone or your computer is doing text, emoji are essentially text. Unlike, say, Slack or something where you can make a custom emoji, or it's not really an emoji, I guess at that point, it's a custom icon. I'm talking here only about using text, also because that's going to mean it will work anywhere that text works, Unicode works. There is a slight, I was going to get to this later, but there's a slight caveat to that. The emoji that do skin color, so the thumbs up emoji, right, can have brown skin or pink skin or the basic yellow cartoon skin. Those actually use 2 Unicode symbols. So there are some applications where choosing one of the non-default skin colors could mess with things, but I have not found it when just doing like a display type of text usage, although I generally don't use those other skin color emoji that often. But most of the emoji, the flags, the check marks, the et cetera, all of those just use 1 Unicode character, and they should work just fine. While we're paused, another place that was suggested to me when I did this presentation, another place that people like to use emoji is in code comments, or in, you know, if you're not a coder in your admin side, you could do it in formula comments. The nice thing in code comments is they jump out on the page. So if you're scrolling through a large amount of text, you could find your moment of comment. The emoji will be right there. It's in color. Also in debug logs, if you write code and you insert debug statements, you could insert an emoji. And then when you have the ginormous debug log that is literally a wall of text, even worse than my example report, the emoji will jump out at you, which is a really nice thing. Any more questions while we're paused?
I'll just comment, on the web you can find emoji and page that will tell you how it's displayed on every form factory, every device. If you're interested to see what would like on Mac versus Windows and things like that, you can go to the Google and see what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. They do look slightly different device to device. So depending on what you're using it for, it's worth checking that. All right. So next, this was one of the things that makes me a little crazy when it comes to the user experience. So here's a related list for a grades object for one of my clients, right? Grade is a simple object that works pretty much as I expect most of you would expect it to. We have a school report card, which groups the grades for the year. And then within each school report card, you're going to have multiple grades. And we have multiple record types of grade. We have a grade that's a course grade. So, you know, math class, you're getting here, Harry Potter's getting a C. And then we have a course, or we have an attendance record type, which is where we're going to record absent days, present days, and we're going to be able to derive your attendance percentage. In this case, it absolutely makes sense to have 2 different record types for this one object, and they use very different fields. They pretty much don't use the same fields at all, right? Well, the absent days are used for attendance grades. Course name is used for course grades. That they don't go together at all. So when you're choosing what to put in your related list, you end up with a situation like this one, where for each row, half the columns are blank. I find that annoying, especially when you only have a limited number of columns you can fit in the related list. So formula fields are going to come to our rescue. So here we've taken the same information, but we've mushed it together with a formula so that every row uses all the available space. And again, it's a simple formula. It's just concatenating text. So if the record type is an attendance record, we're going to show enrolled days, colon, and then the number of enrolled days, and then comma, absent, colon, and the number of absent days. Otherwise, if it's not the attendance record type, it must be the course record type. So we're going to show the course type, a dash, the course name, a colon, and the letter grade. Works great. You can even mix and match. So here is an opportunities related list. I've taken on the far right, I have a text field, formula field that has concatenated various information, but I still want the stage field because then my users can click the stage field header and sort by that field. So this way we're going to mix and match and we're going to have both options. By the way, excuse me, you can see that if you've ever spun up a new dev org, right, this is essentially the trial data that comes in that dev org. The opportunity type field has options that are like existing customer renewal, existing customer replacement, existing customer upgrade. They're really long, which already is not going to be very helpful in a related list if you want to show that type field. So here I've also had my text formula abbreviate the different types so that they fit. And they tell you everything you need to know: existing, replacement, existing, upgrade. That's all your users really are going to need to see. And now we don't have to have, 3 column inches to taken up. And if you want to get even more fun, we can bring those emoji back. So here's emoji that tell you very, very quickly how Harry Potter's school year is going. We've translated the grade for those courses into an emoji so that you barely even have to glance at this related list to see what's going on. All right, now we're going to talk about the related record hack, which I did not call a hack on my blog post. I called it highlighting key fields on Lightning record pages. So I didn't think Salesforce was going to let me get away with it, although it turns out that at Trailblazer DX, I got away with calling it the hack. Sorry, so let's look at this page. There's a lot to take in here, right? So if you want to show your users what is most important on the page, you can put fields where you want them and show your users what's important. It's going to, give them the information they need at the right time really quickly. How did I do this? Oh, by the way, I use this literally in every org I work on. In the bottom left there, in fact, I have multiple fields that are being moved around. So we're 2 layers deep in some tab components. On the right-hand side, I have the attendance and punctuality fields in one related record hack, and then the pertinacity fields in another related record hack. I'm going to show you, more screenshots. I use this everywhere and all the time. Here's those student support flags that we saw earlier in the report that was a wall of numbers, and then we added emoji. So here I've used the related record hack to put them on the page. So when you load your student page, those flags are right where you want them, and they're telling you really quickly what you need to see. Now, some of you are probably asking me, isn't this a lot like that dynamic forms feature that came out about 2 years ago? The answer is yes. But I actually think the related record hack is a little easier to manage, a little less confusing, particularly through this transition period where dynamic forms are still rolling out. They're not available on all objects yet. And depending on where you are in an org, whether it's a new org for you to be administering, or you and other colleagues are working on administering the org together, you just you might not know where every field is. So I like the related record hack still, and I haven't really switched to dynamic forms, which also have some, of their own quirks, which we can talk about later. Now, why do I call it a hack? We're not doing anything that's going to break your Salesforce. The reason I call it a hack is I'm going to show you, we're going to use a quick action or an action component, but we're not taking any action. And we're going to use, on the Lightning record page, we're going to use the related record component, but we're not talking about a related record. So it feels hacky to me, even though we're not breaking anything. So how did I do it? How did I move those fields around? So step one, like I said, you're going to make a new action. Okay, it's going to be an update a record action. You're going to give it a name, of course, and a description, because descriptions are helpful for future you. And then you'll be on the you'll be on the screen for your action, and you click the edit layout. And this is where you're going to remove the fields you don't want and add the fields that you're going to be moving around the page. By the way, you can remove the fields that come up as required. And then once you have your action built and saved, you're going to edit the Lightning page, and you're going to choose the related record component. And in its component editor, you're going to choose the action that you just built. And then your related record component is showing your fields wherever you wanted to put it on the page. Real simple. And of course, right above it, that the attendance and punctuality is another related record action showing a different action and a different set of fields. So it's really easy to move things where you want them on the page layout. That also is why I have on the left-hand side, I have several more tabs than just details. And under those tabs, I have additional related record hacks that are putting certain fields under those tabs.
Just a comment at this moment. You are using related with current record that you are sitting on. Just to
Exactly.
clarify for everybody. Okay.
Exactly. So you can see right here, you're using this, in this case, I was editing a contact. You're using this record as the lookup field, and that's then going to be the action on the record you're talking about. You could use one from a related record as well, for example, on a contact to show fields from their account, if you had an action to show those fields. But for the most part, I tend to use it for the record itself. Great question.
So that lookup field is your relationship.
Exactly.
But in this case, it's not. It's just
right. In this case, it's not a relationship. It's itself.
This is why it's confusing, and I'm talking about it.
Exactly why I call it a hack.
This is when you are creative with Salesforce. Nobody knows what you do.
Yeah. All right. Next trick. Reports can be all sorts of things. They can be checklists. They can be to-do lists. Just so much more. But I don't know, I find it rather annoying to open a million records in tabs to do things to each of them. So this report has become an approval checklist. When you click that link, you have approved the timesheet. Now you can take action directly on the report instead of having to open it in a different tab and approve it. And in this case, it's really simple to build. Clicking that link launches a very simple flow. This flow has one element, and it updates a field. In the case of that timesheet, it updates the approved date field with today's date. Maybe you might need multiple fields. You could do who the approver is, who ran the flow, but the point being, one click has taken an action. So how did I do it? I kind of think I should sometimes rename this presentation to formula fields to the rescue or something like that, because once again, we're talking about a formula field. In this case, it's the hyperlink formula. because you can launch a flow from a link. So I've sort of broken it out by colors, right? It's a hyperlink formula. It has the API name of the flow it's going to launch, and then the name of the variable that you're going to pass the ID of a record into, and the ID of the record concatenated in there. And finally, the text to display, which down at the bottom where it's a little small, you can see that the text to display for my timesheet to approve flow is approved timesheet. So that's what shows up in the report. So back to that report, right? This is what it looks like. You click that link, it launches the flow, you've approved that timesheet. Simple.
See, Kevin had a question for us.
All right, go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, I didn't realize I had unmute. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So go back to the report again. So when the person clicks approved timesheet, I should say, does the computer go off and do, or is it just as soon as they had that thing, they move down to the second one, or what does the user actually see?
Yes, what does the user actually see? So if you just click approved timesheet, in this case, you can probably do something with the hyperlink to do like open in tab. But if you just click it, it will actually load a window that says your flow ran, and you're done, because it's not a screen flow, it's a record launched flow. But what I tend to do is I command click these, and so they run in separate tabs, but those tabs, I don't really need to see them. And then I could refresh this report. And if this is filtered to timesheets that need approval, they'll come off. And so
if you did this in a view versus in a report.
In a list view?
Yeah.
Sure. You could do the same thing. Now, that's a great question. So for example, in this case where approving the timesheet literally just means filling in a date field, you could do that in a list view almost as efficiently by selecting multiple records and editing their date field.
Well, let me just explain why I was thinking that. So let's say that first group, you wanted to approve all of those timesheets. So the poor user has to go and push 10 times approved timesheet.
Right.
If they had a list view, you could select all my records, and then you just click it on once and then it does it. But I don't think it would work that way.
But you need to build it to work this way, Kevin.
Yes, okay, but I'm not a programmer though.
Right. Well, and keep in mind, unless you're selecting all, if you wanted to select the first group of 10 or so, you have to click the little boxes for all 10.
Yeah, I know.
So there are multiple ways to do most things in Salesforce. That one might involve 12 clicks and this involves 10. I don't know. In this case, my users like to be able to see, this client wanted to be able to see a report of what needed approval. They could open some of them to spot check, and then they just boom, 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 down, approving them all.
Anyway, it's brilliant. You did a great job.
Michael, just a comment or add to this, I suppose. I did something similar to what you've outlined here using list views and then launching a flow of all the selected items in the list view.
Sure.
This is for an outbound funds piece, but started running into some governor limits unexpectedly because the other things that were happening in the flow, right? So when you're doing things en masse like that, you got to watch it.
Exactly. In this case, I'm only ever launching one at a time, even though I click them all in succession. Although hopefully a user is spending a moment thinking about it before clicking them all in succession. I, of course, test by clicking them all in succession. Hopefully they're actually spending a moment to think about whether they do want to approve that timesheet. So that's for quick upgrades that hopefully I've given you some ideas and gotten the gears turning so you can bring these back to your orgs very quickly. But special for the Ottawa user group today, I've got a bonus one for you. So this is totally free. You could literally do this while we're talking. I think it is a huge user experience upgrade to use the 50-50 split page template for your Lightning record pages. It's what's referred to as header and 2 equal sections in the actual picker, and I'll show you why. Detail sections are more compact. So on the left-hand side, right, this is now a 50-50 split, not the default 2/3, 1/3 that I think is terrible. For the details, for the most part, most of your fields, you know, they hold 1 or 2 words, maybe a number, right? They're a pick list with the short options. You don't need 2/3 of the screen. For those long text fields, if you use half the screen instead of 2/3 of the screen, it's going to seem more like a newspaper column, which is probably pretty readable. And so I would much rather squeeze my details column a little bit, because now on the right-hand side, when I put a related list over there, unlike in the default Lightning page, which turns that related list into cards, I think that, first of all, it's not a list anymore when it's cards. It doesn't look like a list. Your users will be like, you keep calling it a related list, but this is a bunch of cards. I find the cards really hard to read. I much prefer a list, which is what you get once you switch to the 50-50 or more. And of course, with the related list quick links over there, you can hover over them, and now you get the full screen width, which is really useful for your page. So that's a freebie. By the way, when you have a simple object like this one that has no related lists, you know, you can put your chatter over on the right-hand side. You have plenty of room to work. And the details on the left-hand side, it's like more than enough space for that tiny little bit of information. All right, I promised you wouldn't have to take notes. You don't have to take notes. You can just grab this QR code, which will take you to kolodner.com/TDX, where I have those links. And you can look at the details for how to do each of those 4 hacks on your own, at your own pace. I'll leave that up. We have time for questions. If anyone has more questions, I see there's actually a chat, although that may have been a while ago. It's not a question. Please jump right in.
Well, I'll start. Thank you very much. That was excellent. I loved your presentation. You can come back to Ottawa user group any day and give presentations.
Thank you. I will develop my new ones, and you can be my guinea pigs to try them out.
It'd be great. Yeah, thank you, Michael. I echo Kevin's sentiment. That was fantastic.
Yeah, very creative and good use of technology.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.